So the book we're going to talk about today is kind of like got that X-Men vibe going on. It is the second book in the Talents trilogy, and it's called The Bringer of Dust by J.M. Miro. The first book being Ordinary Monsters, and it had kind of followed these kids who came from all over the world that had different talents. Some could heal themselves, others could work dust and make it do stuff, manipulate it and use it as a weapon. Others could sculpt flesh. Like this one character had a flesh giant that he could kind of like command to do different things that was very strong. And then there's other strange talents as well. They all go to this school called Carindale. I'm not going to get too over detailed in it because I don't want to do any spoilers, but I will say this. The first book was definitely a slow burn and a bit slow moving. I liked it. It builds the story, it builds the world. There's a lot going on in it, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. This one is like 1,000 times even better. I liked this one like 10 times more than the first one. I don't know if anyone read the first one and kind of struggled through it. This one, you jump right into the story, you're right into the action, and you like hit the ground running because all the groundwork's been done in the first one. The whole world's kind of laid out. You like are in the aftermath of what happened. It's a few years later. So there was a boy named Marlowe, and there are these things called the Orsines, which is basically a portal between worlds. And at this school, there was this guy, Dr. Berghast, who wanted to get into the Orsine and open it up, and he was kind of power hungry and doing all these weird, scary experiments. And he was trying to open this way, and that opens the world between the dead and the living. And so Marlowe, in all the craziness that happened towards the end of the last book, he got stuck in this Orsine when it got sealed. So they couldn't get him out. So he's stuck in there. This living boy is stuck in this land of the dead. So in this book, all of his friends are trying to find a way to get him out of there, to get back into the Orsine, to open it, to try and go save him. Okay, so there was in the Prayer Book 2 this evil guy who had kind of made a deal with what they call the Druger. And the Druger were from inside this like Orsine, the land of the dead. And their whole purpose was kind of unclear in the first book. They just seemed like these evil characters. But in this book, you get into the whole backstory of that they were actual people that were talents, and they willingly went into the Orsine to kind of keep an eye on this guy who, I don't know, he wasn't like a megalomaniac, but they called him the first talent, Alistair Carindale, the guy who actually started the Carindale school. He had all 5 talents, and he kind of got what you would say is a little too big for his britches, or was just like a power hungry, almost on the edge of sanity, not good person who was trying to get the other talents to come to him and be around him, but he would do all these horrible things. So they decided that this guy needed to go away, but he was too powerful. So the only thing they could do is a bunch of people with talents and magic got together and they subdued him. So he is asleep in this other world in the Orsine. And the Druger, when they went in there, they had this like corrupted dust. And as you know, dust working is one of the talents that people use, but the corrupted dust came from within this other world of like the dead or the in between and what have you. And it kind of twisted these people who are supposed to be guardians and making sure this guy didn't wake up into something else. And so now they're kind of like working for this guy and they're trying to wake him up. So not only do you have this Marlowe trapped in there, you also have this really, what seems to be really horrible evil guy that they're trying to bring back that is going to cause all kinds of crap to hit the fan if this happens. So we don't want this to happen. This is the middle book, so what do you think is going to happen? I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to read it to find out, but it jumps right into the story. I loved how it was written. The characters are fantastic. The emotional quality of it is great. There's just so much of like, with found family and not really understanding what love is when you've never had it and never had a family, and kind of finding hope in all this darkness that is surrounding you. And, instead of feeling so alone, finding others that you didn't know existed that might have, like talents like you do that aren't going to look at you like you're a freak like normal people would and all that. So just really fantastic. Like I said, if you didn't love the first book, but you thought it was all right, this one is just leaps and bounds better. I don't know, like if it was just the time that I read the first book that I was like, ah, yeah, this is all right. And then I picked up the second one because I was like, I kind of enjoyed that. But then I read the second one, I was like, God, this is like 1,000 times better. Usually, like, that doesn't always happen. So I thought this one was fantastic. It's a fantastic, I would call it a dark fantasy. There's some really gruesome and gory parts in this too. So if you don't like gruesome and gory in your fantasy, because it's definitely dark fantasy, this has a lot. There's a lot of really gory parts. It is messed up, and there's all these like weird elements of magic and just strange liminalness. It's just a weird and wondrous dark fantasy. And if you like X-Men style stories, then this book just might be for you. Also, if you are interested, the next video coming up will be for the first book in case you didn't get a chance to see that and you haven't read this series at all and want to know a little bit more about the first book going into it, then that'll be the next video coming up. If you want to stick around and click into that, or maybe not, because that's just going backwards. You don't have to watch it at all, but it'll be there. Man, if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.